On May 4, 2025, Romanians returned to the polls for a high-stakes presidential election redo, producing results that have unsettled both domestic and international observers. George Simion, leader of the far-right, Nationalist Alliance for the Union of Romanians, AUR, emerged as the frontrunner with 40.7% of the vote. Independent candidate Nicușor Dan, the mayor of Bucharest, secured 20.96%, while Crin Antonescu, backed by the ruling Social Democratic Party and National Liberal Party coalition, trailed slightly at 20.23%. With no candidate surpassing the 50% threshold, a runoff between Simion and Dan is scheduled for May 18. George Simion, AUR, Simion's campaign is rooted in a potent mix of Euroscepticism and nationalism, echoing Donald Trump's MAGA rhetoric. He opposes further military aid to Ukraine, lambasts EU leadership, and has called for reclaiming territories from Ukraine and Moldova. Social conservatism is another pillar of his agenda, underscored by opposition to same-sex marriage and strong advocacy for traditional values. Nicușor Dan, Independent, Dan, the mayor of Bucharest and an anti-corruption reformist, champions transparency, rule of law, and closer integration with the EU. As Simion's confirmed runoff opponent, he represents Romania's urban liberal bloc and has positioned his campaign around resisting nationalist backsliding and safeguarding democratic institutions. This election follows the annulled November 2024 vote, invalidated by Romania's Constitutional Court in a landmark ruling on December 6, 2024. Călin Georgescu, the original frontrunner and a far-right nationalist, was disqualified for profiting from Russian-backed disinformation campaigns and cyberattacks that sought to sway voter opinion and undermine the fairness of the election. The court also cited his opaque use of digital technologies and illicit campaign financing as significant violations of electoral law. Georgescu led the Alliance for Romanian Sovereignty, a party espousing Eurosceptic, anti-globalist, and traditionalist policies with strong pro-Moscow leanings. His campaign, marked by fierce opposition to EU mandates and nationalist rhetoric, attracted scrutiny both at home and abroad. The Romanian public's reaction to the May 4 election outcome underscores Romania's deepening societal rifts. Simion's decisive first-round victory, powered by anti-establishment and nationalist fervor, struck a chord with voters disillusioned by economic hardship, soaring inflation, and pervasive frustration with the political elite. Sentiments intensified by the controversial annulment of the 2024 vote, widely seen as externally manipulated. His nationalist and Eurosceptic base views his ascent as a restoration of national pride and sovereignty. These supporters are concentrated primarily in rural and traditional regions such as Teleorman, southern Romania, Vaslui, eastern Romania, Botoșani, northeastern Romania, and Giurgiu, southern Romania, areas defined by their agricultural economies and firmly rooted conservative values. In stark contrast, urban, liberal, and pro-EU constituencies, particularly in Bucharest, southern Romania, Cluj-Napoca, northwestern Romania, Timișoara, western Romania, and Iasi, northeastern Romania, have reacted with mounting anxiety and swift mobilization. These urban hubs, bastions of democratic institutions and Western integration, see Simion's nationalist and Eurosceptic platform as a serious threat to Romania's EU trajectory and NATO alliances, with fears of democratic backsliding, isolation from Brussels, and erosion of civil liberties looming large. The election's outcome has ignited widespread protests, energized grassroots activism, and spurred urgent calls for unity among pro-Western factions. Nicușor Dan's unexpectedly strong performance, particularly in Bucharest, has become a symbol of this renewed urban mobilization and the determination to block Simion's advance. Analysts widely concur that these developments have deepened the schism between nationalist populism and Romania's urban liberal bloc, marking a pivotal moment in the country's evolving political landscape. International reactions to the election result diverged sharply in both focus and tone. Reuters and RL foreground the geopolitical implications. Reuters highlights fears that Simion's rejection of Ukraine aid could destabilize NATO's eastern flank, while RL underscores that, despite his public condemnation of Russia's invasion, Simion's nationalist agenda tacitly aligns with Moscow's strategic interests. In a complementary focus, the Wall Street Journal and Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, concentrate on institutional concerns, pointing to widening fractures within the EU and signs of weakening NATO cohesion. Meanwhile, PBS NewsHour and Politico emphasize domestic dynamics. PBS attributes Simion's rise to entrenched economic dissatisfaction and populist backlash, while Politico details Russian cyberattacks during the election as emblematic of sustained foreign interference. Although Russian state media have remained silent, international analysts broadly agree that Simion's ascent is regarded in Moscow as a strategic gain, weakening both EU and NATO cohesion.